it's Sophia the Shadow Hunter, and today I'm finishing up my other half of my top 20 books to read in 2019. I should have filmed this the other day, but I've been sick and I didn't feel up to it, and then I was going to film yesterday and there was no quiet time to film yesterday because I didn't get out of bed till 8 in that Bible study. I didn't get back till almost 2, and then my sisters were back from school, and so it was too loud to film, and plus I hadn't been feeling well. So I'm going to finish it today. So let's get started. I'd love to know all the books you guys plan to read this year, what you're currently reading, and the top books you want to get to this week. And so let's get started. So the first book I'm going to show you guys is actually, I bought this the end of last year too. It was September or August. And it's Oskar Schindler, The Untold Account of His Life, Wartime Activities, and the True Story Behind the List. This is a huge book I got for $9.99 from Half Price Books. And since I read his book and I rewatched the movie, I watched the movie like, I don't know, probably 2 times. I need to rewatch it. It's a touching movie and a story. And my favorite line is, I could have done more. The type of person he was, and his character was, you know, his character in some ways was better and sometimes it wasn't. But he saved these people's lives, and he did what other people weren't willing to do, and he realized that he had more money, he could have saved more people, and that was just so touching to me. Of course, he is one of the righteous among the nations in Israel. I believe that's where he's buried. So let me read what it says. Spy, businessman, bon vivant, Nazi party name, a righteous Gentile, this was Oskar Schindler, the controversial savior of almost 12,000 Jews during the Holocaust, who struggled afterwards to rebuild his life and gain international recognition for his wartime deeds. Author David Crow examines every phase of his subject's life in this landmark biography, presenting a figure of mythic proportions that one prominent Schindler Jew described as an extraordinary man in extraordinary times. So this book sounds awesome. I can't wait to read it. Next I have, which I think I've owned this for probably, I think I got this in 2017 on my birthday. Excuse me. The Wiesenthal File by Alan Levy. This book looks great. I can't wait to read it. It says, Simon Wiesenthal spent 4.5 years in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II. 89 family members and relatives were exterminated, and he himself ended the war as a living skeleton. Almost 50 years later, Wiesenthal remains undauntedly committed to the cause of justice for the Jewish people in the pursuit of Nazi war criminals. The cases he has pursued are many, and he has brought 1,100 Nazis to trial, and his name has frequently hit world headlines in the connection with such figures as Adolf Eichmann, Franz Stengel, Joseph Mengele, and Kurt Waldheim. Of his enormous personal courage there is no doubt, but so long after the war, is Wiesenthal's work still important? Does it have meaning? Is he making a positive contribution to post-Holocaust Judaism? Wiesenthal's answer is resolute. We live in a modern world. We know there's pollution. The air is bad, the water is bad, the skies are dirty. But there's another part of pollution that people ignore. In many countries, people are living between murderers, and that is the biggest pollution of all. This book by internationally known author and journalist Alan Levy, an acquaintance of Wiesenthal for many years, is the first critical examination of Wiesenthal's life and work. The story of Wiesenthal's pursuit of war criminals, often detailed in Wiesenthal's own words, offers reading and exciting as any thriller. But the Wiesenthal File is much more than that. It is an examination by an independent-minded Jew of the work of one of the greatest Jewish figures of our century. So this book sounds great. I can't wait to read it. Next, I have The Kanzner's Train by Anne Porter. Nice, cute little book. It says, Rizzo Kazner may have saved more Jews from the Holocaust than anyone else, but his deals with Eichmann came back to haunt him. Summer 1944, Rizzo Kazner, a Hungarian lawyer and journalist, meets with Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust, in Budapest. With the final solution at its terrible apex and tens of thousands of Hungarian Jews being sent to Auschwitz every month, the two men agreed to allow 1,684 Jews to leave for Switzerland by train. The wealthy Jews of Budapest will pay an average of 1,500 for each family member to be included. The poor will pay nothing. Kazner's also negotiates to keep 20,000 Hungarian Jews alive. Itzman called them Kazner's Jews, or Jews on ice. For a deposit of approximately 100 per head, these deals will haunt Kazner to the end of his life. In Israel, after the war, Kazner was vilified as an infamous libel trial for collaborating with the Nazis. In 1957, he was murdered while awaiting the Supreme Court verdict that he would eventually vindicate him. Anna Porter gets a compelling account of Kazner, the hero, the cool politician and proud Zionist, the man who believed that promises, even to Nazis, had to be kept. This book sounds amazing and I can't wait to read it. Next I have A Man Called O by Frederick Bachman. I can't wait to read this one. I just started reading. My grandma asked me to tell you she's sorry. So if you guys haven't read this book, please leave your comments down below. It says, at first sight, O is almost certainly the grumpiest man you ever meet. A crude legend with staunch principles, strict routines, and a short fuse. People think him bitter. He thinks himself surrounded by idiots. O's well-ordered solitary world gets a shake-up one November morning with the appearance of the new neighbors. A chatty young couple and their two boisterous daughters, who announce their arrival by accidentally flattening O's mailbox with their U-Haul. What follows is a heartwarming tale of unkempt cats, unlikely friendships in a community, unexpected reassessment of one person though they had thought they had it all figured out. A word-of-mouth bestseller that caused a sensation across Europe, Frederick Bachman's irresistible novel about the angry old man next door is an uplifting explanation of the unreliability of first impressions and a gentle reminder that life is sweeter when you share with other people. Over is all you need. So this book sounds great and I can't wait to read it. Next I have On the Eve by Bernhard Wallstein. I bought this last September, The Jews of Europe Before the Second World War. I had to get this book because it's a picture of Anne Frank when she was little. And it just sounded interesting. So let me tell you what it's about. On the Eve is the portrait of a world on the brink of annihilation. In this proactive book, Bernhard Wallstein presents a new and disturbing interpretation of the collapse of European Jewish civilization even before the Nazi onslaught. In the 1930s, as Europe sprawled towards the Second World War, the continent's Jews faced an existential crisis. The harsh realities of the age, anti-Semitic persecution, economic discrimination, and unleashed climate of violence devastated Jewish communities and shattered their lives of individuals. The Jewish crisis was much the result of the international decay of external attack, demographic collapse, social disintegration, and cultural dissolution were all making their toll. The problem was not just Nazism. In the summer of 1939, more Jews were behind barbed wire outside the Third Reich than within it. Not only in the police states, but even the liberal democracies of the West. The greater part of Europe was being transformed to a giant concentration camp for Jews. Unlike the most previous accounts, On the Eve focuses not on anti-Semites, but on the Jews. Wallstein refutes that common misconception that they were unaware of the guiding forces of their enemies. He demonstrates that there was a growing and widespread recognition among Jews that they stood on the edge of an abyss. On the Eve recaptures the agonizing sorrows and the evanescent cultural glories in the last phase in the history of the European Jews. It explores their hopes and anxieties and ambitions, their family ties, social relations, and their intellectual creativity, everything that made life meaningful and bearable for them. This book sounds incredible. I can't wait to read it. Next I have A Torch Against the Night by Sahaba Tahir. I think I bought this about 2 years ago as well. I've heard things about her novels. I really don't know what this much book's about, so let's read it. It says, in 2015, one book emerged as the most highly acclaimed fantasy debut in young adult. Now the sequel will set the world on fire. So this is the sequel. Oops. Elias and Lai are running for their lives. After the events of the fourth trial, martial soldiers hunt their two fugitives as they flee the city of Sarah and undertake their perilous journey to the heart of the empire. Layla is determined to break into Koth, the Empire's most secure and dangerous prison, to save her brother, who is the key to the scholar's survival. And Elias is determined to help Layla succeed, even if it means giving up the last chances at freedom. But dark forces, human and otherworldly, work against Layla and Elias. Their pair must fight every step of the way to outsmart their enemies. The bloodthirsty Empire Marcus, the merciless commandant, the sadistic warden of Koth, and the most heartbreaking of all Helen, Elias' former friend, and the Emperor's new blood strike. Bound to Marcus's will, Helen forces a torturous mission of her own that might destroy her, following the traitor Elias' Ventress and the scholar's slave who helped them escape and kill them both. So this book sounds great. I can't wait to read it, but I need to read the first one. So actually, maybe I need to make this into part 3 because I'm already at 10 minutes. So I'm going to try to go as fast as I can. Next I have The 13 Halls by Michael Scott and Colette Friedman. The Hall of the ancient artifacts imbued with a primal and deadly power, but are they protectors of this world or the keys to its destruction? A gruesome murder in London reveals a sinister plot to uncover a 2,000-year-old secret. For decades, the keepers guard these halls, keeping them safe, hidden, and apart from one another. But now the keepers are being brutally murdered, their prizes stolen, the ancient objects bathed in their blood. Now only a few remain. With her dying breath, one of the keepers convinces Sarah Miller, a virtuous stranger, to deliver her hollow, a broken sword with devastating powers, to her nephew Owen. The duo quickly become suspects in a series of murders as they are chased by both the police and the sadistic dark man and his nubile mistress. As Sarah and Owen search for their surviving keepers, they unveil a deadly secret that the keepers were charged to protect. The mystery leads Sarah and Owen on a cat and mouse chase through England and Wales. So this book sounds really exciting. I can't wait to read it. Next I have In the Garden of Beasts by Erik Larson. I only got this for $3 a half price book. It was a great deal. I think I got this probably about 1.5 years ago as well. Erik Larson has been widely acclaimed as a master of narrative nonfiction, and in his new book, the best-selling author of The Devil in the White City turns his hand to a remarkable story set during Hitler's rise to power. The time is 1933, the place Berlin, when William E. Dodd becomes America's first ambassador to Hitler's Germany, a year that proved to be a turning point in history. A mild man of profession from Chicago, Dodd brings along his wife, son, and flamboyant daughter Martha. At first, Martha is entranced by the parties and the pomp and the handsome men of the Third Reich. With their infectious enthusiasm for restoring Germany to a position of world prominence. Enamored of the new Germany, she has one affair after another, including with the surprising honorable first of the Gestapo, Rudolf Diels. But as the evidence of a Jewish persecution mounts, confirmed by chilling first-person testimony, her father telegraphs his concerns to a largely indifferent State Department back home. Dodd watches with alarm as Jews were attacked and the press is censored and drafts of frightening news laws begin to circulate. After that first year unfolds, the shadow deepens. The Dodd experience days filled with excitement, intrigue, romance, and ultimately horror when the climatic spasm of violence and murder unmasks Hitler's true character and ruthless ambition. So this book sounds great. I can't wait to read it. About that, I am back. I had to stop and get a drink. So let's continue. Next I have Midnight in Berlin by James McManus. Berlin in the spring of 1939, Hitler is preparing for war. Colonel Noel Macrae, a British diplomat, plans the ultimate sacrifice to stop him. The West's appeasement policies have failed. There is only one alternative: assassination. The Gestapo. Aware of Macrae's hostility, seeks to compromise him in their infamous brothel. There, Macrae meets and falls in love with Sarah, a Jewish woman blackmailed into becoming a Nazi courtesan. Macrae finds himself trapped between the blind policies of his government and the dark world of betrayal and deception in Berlin. As he seeks to save the woman he loves from the brutality of the Gestapo, he defiles his government and plans directed action to avert what he knows will be a global war. Inspired by true events and characters, James McManus' Midnight in Berlin is a passionate story that will leave you in awe of human capacity for courage, sacrifice, and love set against a world on the brink of war. This book sounds great. I can't wait to read it. Next I have Survivor in the Killing Fields, the best book on capability that has ever been published, TA Album, Chicago Tribune, by Academy Award winner Hang Nigel with Roger Warner. It says, nothing has shaped my life as much as surprising the Pol Pot regime. I'm a survivor of the Cambodian Holocaust. That's who I am. He became famous through his Academy Award-winning performance as part of the film The Killing Fields. But the key to hanging Gore's screen success was the terrible truth that his own experiences in the rice paddles and labor camps of revolutionary Cambodia. Here, the gripping memoir of life under the communist Khmer Rouge regime. He reveals the country's descent to a hell beyond our imaginations, a world of war, slaves, and senseless brutality, where a family simply ceases to be. But with the pain, he also gives us hope and a looming example of how the best sort of love can actually be strengthened through shared experience of a life-threatening ordeal. An eyewitness account of the real killing fields by an extraordinary survivor. This book is both a reminder of the horrors of war and a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. So the book sounds great. I can't wait to read it. Next, I have a true story music live in Nazi Germany, the Extensional Symphony by Martin Goldsmith. I looked forever to find this book because I looked on Goodreads and I found so many books of this sort, and I'm so glad I found it. I can't wait to read it. So this book is about, I'm just going to give you a quick synopsis. I haven't read this book, but this is about the symphony at Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, they had a symphony of all people who could play musicians, and when they'd be marching people to their deaths, to their gas chambers, there's a symphony that was forced to play music. And this is about these people, and the people who played in this band, it saved their life. And like, we don't want to be playing music and when our friends and family are being marched to their death and murdered by the Germans, but they didn't have a choice, and it kept them alive. So this is a story about music, love, and survival in Nazi Germany, and I can't wait to read it. Next, I had this book, which I also bought, I think, last September, the year before that, and it's The Reckoning, Death and Intrigue, The Promised Land by Patrick Bishop, a true detective story. So this book sounds great, and I can't wait to read it. It says, renowned military historian Patrick Bishop revisits the death of notorious Zion leader Abraham Stern, head of the infamous Stern gang, challenging the prevailing account of his demise. The charismatic mastermind of a series of high-profile terrorist attacks with the goal of attaining Jewish independence and statehood, Abraham Stern was driven by the belief that he was the Jewish liberator of British Palestine. By early 1942, he was the most wanted man in Palestine, forced to take refuge in the attack on Tel Aviv to evade Assistant Superintendent Jeffrey Morton, who was assigned to track him down. Stern's capture and death has been debated and endlessly contested over the years. The official British report stated that Stern was attempting to escape and Morton had reason to believe that he had explosives. However, witnesses claimed that it was the cold-blooded murder that precipitated a cult of martyrdom, preluding any possibility of a dissension among the British, the Arabs, and the Jews, inspiring his followers for many years. Excuse me. The Reckoning chronicles Patrick Bishop's fascinating quest to uncover the truth about Stern's ignominious death. Bishop granted access to Morton's private archive and interviews with witnesses and relatives to a dramatic story that resonates to this very day in one of the world's most conflicted regions. So the book sounds amazing. I can't wait to read it. I hope you guys like this video. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you don't, leave your comments down below. And we'll see you guys next time with another video. Goodbye.